Hello everyone, welcome to Elite Link Online. I hope that you guys are following the rules of the lockdown as well as maintaining a perfect balance between your recreational activities as well as your studies. Now on the note of studies, I am here today to give you a brief intro about a very important playwright and a very interesting and popular and important play written by this playwright. So now this playwright that I'm talking about is no other than William Shakespeare, who wrote during the time of Queen Elizabeth, and he has written magnificent plays. Also, he is known as the father of English literature. A lot of times he's referred to as a bard also. Bard is somebody who kind of writes amazing verses and writings, and they are very wise in that term. So he's kind of given the title of a bard, B-A-R-D, bard. So this play today that we are going to talk about is titled Julius Caesar, which is a historical play written by Shakespeare. It has the components of history in it, and इसीलिए ये थोड़ा सा हमारे लिए अंडरस्टैंडिंग में प्रॉब्लम दे देता है. हम थोड़े से इसको समझने में डिफिकल्टी आती है. So today I am going to give you a brief background about what the entire play is all about. क्या उसका प्लॉट है, क्या स्ट्रक्चर है, क्या उसके थीम्स हैं, कैरेक्टर्स हैं. So we're going to discuss a little bit about that so that once we begin with the play, you guys are at least familiar with how the things are going to go forward. So let's begin. Okay. In 1599, William Shakespeare wrote the Tragedy of Julius Caesar, a play based on Caesar's life. So Julius Caesar जो थे वो रोमन एम्पायर के वन ऑफ द इम्पोर्टेंट पॉलिटिकल फिगर्स थे. ही enjoyed a very important political and social status in the country. Okay, so this play is all about Julius Caesar. How about Julius Caesar in terms of how he kind of came to this power, and in this particular play it is going to be about how there were certain people who thought that Caesar doesn't he doesn't deserve this kind of importance that he's getting, and there were certain people who wanted to get rid of him because they were also power hungry. They wanted the kind of power and importance Julius Caesar enjoyed, and they did something to fulfill these agendas of theirs. Okay, now set in 44 BC, it tells the story of a Roman politician named Brutus who plots with others to assassinate Caesar. It also portrays Caesar's brutal murder and the aftermath. So this play particularly will not tell us about how Caesar came into power, but however, I'm going to give you that background to the play in this particular session. But in the play, it is about when Caesar is in the power, he's still not the emperor, but he is quite a potential candidate to become the emperor. And because of this, there is a certain section of people who are against Caesar and they want to overthrow him. They don't want Caesar to be in power. Now, a name is mentioned here, Brutus. He is a very important character in the play. So now, one thing very important to notice is that Brutus is not against Caesar from the very beginning. Brutus जो है वो Caesar का right hand है. Okay, and there is another character in the play who is extremely important. He's called Mark Antony. So Mark Antony and Brutus, they were quite close to Caesar. They are very important to Caesar's coming to power and ruling the masses. So they are quite significant in the play and in Caesar's life. So Brutus जो है, he becomes a soft target for the conspirators who think that they can turn Brutus against Caesar. And in the play we will come to know whether they succeed or not. Moving ahead. Now, a rough plot summary. Play begins in ancient Rome where Julius Caesar, Pompey and Crassus, known as the Triumvirate. So these are the Caesar, Pompey and Crassus. They are the three important political figures of the Roman empire, और इसी की वजह से because they are three, so they are called the triumvirate. They had dominated the Roman politics for years. They were the most influential and most powerful political trio. Okay, and they were controlling all the aspects of the Roman Empire, and they did that for years. When Cassius died, Caesar, a powerful and popular military leader, raised an army against Pompey's army in a battle for power. Caesar wins, commoners celebrate his victory, but the nobles are not happy about it. They want to overthrow the republic. Julius Caesar is warned of the Ides of March, ignores it and dies. Plebeians, which means the common people, plebeians are way too easily swayed. All the conspirators die too. So this is way too brief a summary of this 5-act play. So let me break this down for you. Now, Julius Caesar, Pompey and Cassius, important figures of the Roman Empire. They have been controlling Roman Empire for years, all aspects of it. Then one of them dies. Cassius dies. तो पीछे कौन बच गया? Caesar and Pompey. So what Caesar does is he wages a battle against Pompey for power, and he even wins that battle. So now the commoners, the plebeians, they are really happy about it because they are fond of Caesar. They were more fond of Caesar, but they were not against Pompey at all. ये जो सारे points हैं, ये play में नहीं है. Play begins when Caesar is returning from this battle and everyone is celebrating. They're getting ready for a celebration to give him a warm welcome and to celebrate his victory. At this point, the play begins. Now, Pompey's army has been defeated. Caesar wins. Commoners celebrate. But जो noble section of the society hai, the other rich people, not the commoners, the nobles, the bourgeois class, they are not happy about it because they think that now Caesar is going to be the sole, candidate to become the emperor. तो नोबल्स को ये लगता है कि सीजर जो है वो एम्परर बनना चाहता है. ही हैज बिकम एम्बिशियस, ये पावर हंग्री हो गया है, एंड दैट इज व्हाई दे काइंड ऑफ प्लॉट अगेंस्ट सीजर. नाउ वेदर सीजर वाज एक्चुअली पावर हंग्री और नॉट, ये हमें प्ले में नहीं पता चलता है. दिस इज समथिंग दैट शेक्सपियर लीव्स फॉर द रीडर्स टू जज और अंडरस्टैंड. Although he does leave hints in the form of a speech given by Mark Antony, from which we can guess whether Caesar was actually power hungry or not, whether his killing was actually justified or not. Because these nobles, there will be a set of conspirators from this nobles of the country. These conspirators are going to murder Caesar. They are called conspirators because they conspired against Caesar. They conspired for his murder and they included Brutus very tactfully in their plans. Okay, हम Brutus का भी थोड़ा सा character analysis करेंगे, अभी भी कर सकते हैं. When we will be doing the play, we will also line by line see how Brutus's orientation, his loyalty that was always for Caesar, it kind of changed, why it changed, and whether Brutus is also a nobleman or not. Okay, so now we know that the nobles, they wanted to overthrow the Republicans, and these last lines, Julius Caesar is warned of the Ides of March. What is Ides of March? When Julius Caesar returned, there was a soothsayer who warned Caesar that beware of Ides of March. Ides means 15. So beware of the 15th of March because something wrong, something disastrous is going to happen to you on the 15th of March. So be very careful on that day. However, Caesar ignores this warning because he says, I do not believe in superstitions and everything. So he ignores it, and he actually in the play dies on the 15th of March. Overall, the play shows us that the plebeians are way too easily swayed. That means the commoners can easily be convinced into something. So the mob mentality is easy to control. ये हमें play में instances आएंगे because there will be a point in the play when people will be fine with Julius Caesar's killing, because Brutus is going to tell them that Caesar had become an ambitious man, he had become power hungry, he was not thinking about the benefit of the people. People will completely agree with Brutus, मान जाएंगे वो उसकी बात एक ही बारी में. And right after Brutus's speech, there will be Antony's speech, where Antony is going to convince them that Caesar was not power hungry and that his murder is not justified. So this shows us that the mob mentality is quite, fickle. It changes very easily. They get swayed, they get convinced very easily. So they don't really have an opinion of their own. ऐसा उस टाइम की ऑडियंस के बारे में बोला गया है. In fact, the modern audience is more or less like this. We are quick to judge, we are quick to come to conclusion, and the lesson learned here is that we should not do that. We should analyze all the aspects of the situation. However, let's move ahead. Now, the jealous conspirators convinced Caesar's friend Brutus to join their assassination plot against Caesar. To stop Caesar from gaining too much power, Brutus and the conspirators kill him on the Ides of March. Mark Antony, again the right hand of Caesar, Mark Antony drives the conspirators out of Rome and fights them in a battle. Brutus and his friend Cassius lose and kill themselves, leaving Antony to rule in Rome. So now this is the most simplistic way of, understanding the 5 acts of this play. So this exactly all these episodes happen in the same sequence, and we know now who the important characters are. Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, Brutus, and then of course there is Cassius, who is the prime conspirator, and then there are like a couple of conspirators with him जिनके नाम धीरे धीरे play में surface होंगे. We will come to know about them, right? But these are our main characters that we have to keep in mind, and the Ides of March, which is the 15th of March, जो कि Caesar को एक warning मिली थी और उसने completely ignore कर दी. Moving ahead. Now, this is a summary of Act 1, like the important episodes of Act 1. The tribunes of Rome, Marullus and Flavius, break up a gathering of citizens who want to celebrate Julius Caesar's triumphant return from the war. So, like I told you that एक war हुआ जिसमें Julius Caesar proved victorious. वो जीत के जब वो अपने घर वापस आ रहा था, तो the countrymen had decorated the city and they were planning a great celebration to welcome Caesar and his triumphant return, his victorious return from the war. But Marullus and Flavius, the tribunes, the noble men of the country, they were not happy about it. So they break the gathering. They ask the common man to go home because they were like, why are you doing all this? So they are pretty, angry, and they take down the decorations on Caesar's statue also. All this happens in Act 1, Scene 1, right? So this happens then. The victory is marked by public games in which Caesar's protege, Mark Antony, takes part. Caesar's protege matlab somebody who is actually in his footsteps. He is completely following Caesar to the tooth, right? So यहाँ पर Mark Antony is a very important figure. He is a very dear friend to Julius Caesar, and he blindly trusts Caesar. And in the end, he is the one who is going to avenge Caesar's death. Okay, so एक game वहाँ पे प्लान किया गया है, अरेंज किया गया है, which is a race. और उस रेस के बारे में डिटेल्स आपको अच्छे से हम लोग एक्ट वाइज जब जाएंगे तब पता चल जाएंगे. So now Mark Antony is also taking part in these games. On his way to the arena, Caesar is stopped by a stranger. This stranger is a soothsayer, जो fortune teller होते हैं. So he's a soothsayer. He comes and gives him a warning. So the stranger who warns him that he should beware the Ides of March, that is the 15th of March. Caesar should be very careful about that. And Caesar doesn't pay much heed to that. We already, I've told you this twice or thrice. But let's see. Fellow senators, Caius Cassius and Marcus Brutus are suspicious of Caesar's reactions to the power he holds in the Republic. Now these guys are a little worried that maybe Caesar is getting too much of power and he's probably becoming too ambitious and he's becoming self-centered. They fear he will accept offers to become emperor. He has been gaining a lot of power recently and people treat him like God. So this clearly establishes that Caesar is much liked by the common people, and they are ready to give him anything that he wants. So अब लोगों को ये डर लगने लग गया है, जो nobles हैं, they are worried about the fact that Caesar is going to enjoy a lot of power and advantages, and they don't want that. They don't want Caesar to become the emperor. Now, important thing to note here is that Brutus is not against Caesar personally, right? As an individual, Brutus doesn't have any problem with Caesar, but Brutus obviously worries about this fact that if Caesar has become over ambitious or power hungry, then it is not going to be good for the Roman Empire. And Brutus's apprehensions regarding Caesar becoming the emperor rests only in this fact that he wants the welfare of the Roman empire. He doesn't want anything bad to happen to the country. So only because of this reason he turns against Caesar. He becomes a little skeptical. He doubts Caesar's intentions. Otherwise, the Caesar who is not an emperor, or Caesar minus the so-called over ambition and everything, Brutus likes that Caesar. Okay, he only worries that Caesar shouldn't become over ambitious, or he shouldn't become power hungry. And if that is happening, then Brutus thinks that that needs to be checked. Okay, now Cassius, a successful general himself, is jealous of Caesar. So he is the prime conspirator, the important conspirator, and he is a general. He also has a lot of military power under him, but he is jealous of Caesar. So now his worries about Caesar becoming the emperor rests in the fact that he wants the same kind of power that Caesar enjoys. He's jealous of him. He's not thinking about the benefit of the Roman Empire like Brutus is. So we see that the motives of these two people, Brutus and Cassius, are completely different. The motives of killing Caesar or the motives of doubting Caesar's intentions, they are completely different. Brutus has a noble intention. He wants the welfare of the Roman Empire, and Cassius is plain jealous of Caesar, and he wants the same power, the same advantages that Caesar is enjoying. Brutus has a more balanced view of the political position. The conspirator Casca enters and tells Brutus of a ceremony held by the plebeians. They offered Caesar a crown 3 times and he refused it every time. But the conspirators are still wary of his aspirations. So now they notice that Caesar has been offered a crown thrice. Right, in one particular ceremony, the commoners are offering the crown to Caesar. They are expressing their will, their desire for Caesar to become the emperor, but Caesar refuses these these offerings every time the crown is offered to him. लेकिन फिर भी अभी भी conspirators को थोड़ा सा doubt है that Caesar is just acting not interested in becoming a emperor. He's just acting it out, but he actually probably wants to become an emperor. So they are not very clear. So they vary of his aspirations, Caesar's aspirations, Caesar's plans. Okay, moving ahead. Act 2. Cassius, Casca, and their allies plant false documents to manipulate Brutus to join their cause to remove Caesar. Now, obviously, they think that Brutus is already doubting Caesar, and Brutus is an important figure, just like Mark Antony and Julius Caesar. So they think that having Brutus on their side, it will give them a great advantage, and that is why they are going to manipulate Brutus. Now, there are a couple of ways how they are going to manipulate Brutus. First is that Cassius is going to personally talk to Brutus and plant a seed of doubt in his mind against Caesar. Then Cassius himself is going to write some letters, anonymous letters, and he's going to plant them at places where Brutus often goes, so that Brutus ends up reading those letters. So now they are anonymous, but Cassius basically writes them on behalf of the common people. Common लोगों ने ये नहीं लिखे हैं letters. Cassius writes them. This is a plot. This is a trap for Brutus, where he says that, you know, we are suffering under the rule of Caesar. How is Brutus not noticing this? We hope that Brutus notices this, and, you know, puts an end to our misery. So ये सारी false प्रेयर्स और फॉल्स कंप्लेंट्स वो लेटर्स में लिखकर ब्रूटस के आसपास रखवा देता है. he makes sure that Brutus receives them, and this is how he convinces Brutus to come on their side. Okay. After doing so, they visit Brutus at night in his home to persuade him of their views. There they plan Caesar's death. Now, after reading the letters, Brutus is totally convinced that probably people are genuinely suffering under Caesar's rule, and Caesar has genuinely become power hungry, and he's become self-centered, as he's not thinking about the benefit or the welfare of the common people. And that is why Brutus joins the conspirators' side, and now they plan Caesar's death in Act 2. Brutus is troubled but refuses to confide in his devoted wife Portia. Now, because Brutus is now, he has to undergo certain actions that are against his beloved friend Julius Caesar, so he's a little troubled. And Portia, his wife, she notices all these things, and she even demands that, I'm your wife, you should share your worries with me. But Brutus does not do that. He doesn't tell anything to Portia. On 15th March, Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, urges him not to go to the Senate. She has had visionary dreams and fears the portent of the overnight storms. So now in this act, we see that on 15th of March there is really bad weather, and Calpurnia, who is Caesar's wife, she sees a dream. She has a dream. It's a very devastating dream where she sees Caesar being killed. And she thinks that this is a sign. She should warn Caesar, but Caesar does not pay any heed to that too. जब Calpurnia उसे बोलती है that आज तुम कहीं पे भी बाहर मत जाओ, तो Caesar बोलता है that cowards die every day. Because if you are a coward, you are scared of death, then you die every day. A part of you dies every day. You may not die physical death, but because of this fear, you die every day. And the kings, they die only once, when their physical body defeats. They're defeated in their physical form. So this is one of the very famous lines from the play, that cowards die every day and kings die only once. So Caesar says that it doesn't befit my status and my personality that मैं छुप कर अपने घर में बैठ जाऊं, because there is a warning that I should be scared of. He says, I do not believe in such signs or supernatural elements. I don't believe in all this. And he goes ahead. He goes to the Senate. Okay. So Calpurnia urges him, requests him not to go to the Senate. Senate is where the Senate is basically the seat of power. In that chamber, in that hall, Caesar is killed. She has had visionary dreams, so she is worried that they are going to come true, and she warns Caesar, tries to keep him at home, but he doesn't. Okay. Caesar is nevertheless persuaded by flattery to go to the capital. So now in Act 3, we see that these conspirators and Brutus, they're all going to come and they're going to convince Caesar अपने flattery से और अपने persuasion power से that he should definitely go and attend the meeting at the Senate, at the capital. At the capital, he is stabbed by each conspirator in turns. हर conspirator वहाँ पर उसको एक बार stab करता है knife से. As Brutus gives the final blow, Caesar utters the famous phrase, "Et tu, Brute." Brutus is the one who stabs Caesar in the end. And and Caesar is surprised to see Brutus doing that to him, and he says this, "Et tu, Brute," which means "you too, Brutus." So Brute, वो उसको प्यार से Brute बोलता था. So he's like, you too, Brutus, you too joined the conspirators party, you too turned against me, and you too want me to be dead. So this is an expression. Now this has become a famous expression of betrayal. Anybody who betrays, people usually say this, et tu, Brute. Okay, now against Cassius's advice, Brutus allows Mark Antony to speak a funeral oration for Caesar in the marketplace. Now that they have killed Caesar, they have to justify their act, और एक proper funeral भी होना है. And since Caesar is such a powerful and loved character, so people, the commoners need to be informed about that, and it need to be informed why Caesar was murdered, right? So now they planned that, okay, we are going to tell the people that Caesar had become way too power ambitious and self-centered, and that is why it was justified to kill him. Now, Mark Antony notices, he reaches the scene of Caesar's death pretty late, and he sees that, oh, okay, now Caesar has been murdered, and these conspirators think of killing Mark Antony also. But Brutus says that we are not killers. We are only going to kill somebody who is a threat to the Roman Empire, and Mark Antony is not a threat. He is not like Caesar, who is power hungry. So Brutus, we see that in Brutus there is still some honesty, okay, and Brutus thinks that he is killing Caesar only to save the Roman Empire. ओके सो नाउ सारे कॉन्स्पिरेटर्स मना करते हैं कि मार्क एंटनी को सीजर के फ्यूनरल पे स्पीच नहीं देने दो, बिकॉज वो लोगों को सच बोल सकता है या लोग उसकी बात पे ज्यादा ट्रस्ट करेंगे. सो लेट्स नॉट डू दैट. बट ब्रूटस सेज नो. If Mark Antony speaks, that's better, because he has a right, because Caesar was his very great friend, and B, that Mark Antony is also trustworthy. People trust him. So if he speaks, if he's convinced about our agendas, then he's not going to turn against us. Reading ahead. He is allowed under the condition that first Brutus must address the people to explain the conspirators' reason and their fears for Caesar's ambition. So पहले डिसाइड हुआ कि पहले ब्रूटस बोलेगा और उसके बाद ही मार्क एंटनी विल गिव हिज स्पीच for a farewell kind of a thing for Caesar, right? So now Brutus पहले जाकर अपने actions को, conspirators के actions को justify करेगा, उसके बाद मार्क एंटनी बोलेगा. After Brutus speaks, the crowd becomes calm and supports his cause. However, Antony in his speech questions the motives of the conspirators and reminds the crowd of Caesar's benevolent actions. Benevolent is kind and loving actions. So Antony reminds the common people that how kind and loving Caesar was towards them. And because Brutus has already convinced them that Caesar was ambitious and he was only thinking about himself, people got convinced. So here we see the point that people can easily be swayed. So पहले वो Brutus की बातों को मान गए और अब Antony उनको याद दिलाएगा that see how benevolent this man was. Okay, so Caesar's benevolent actions and of his refusal to accept the crown. He also reads them Caesar's will, in which Caesar leaves public land and money to each Roman citizen. Antony's speech stirs the crowd into a murderous riot and the conspirators are forced to flee from the city. जब एंटनी उनको ये बताता है कि भाई सीजर अपनी विल के अंदर तुम सबके लिए लैंड और मनी छोड़ के गया, रिसोर्सेज उसने ऐड किए, then how can he be a self-centered man? How can he be not thinking about your benefit? And because of all this, now the crowd becomes agitated, angry, and they rage. The rage rises, and they turn against the conspirators. They want to kill the conspirators there and then, and because of which the conspirators are forced to leave the city. They had to run away to save their lives. They had to run away from the city. So now, two important points that we see here. Brutus is only trying to protect the welfare of the Romans, right? And secondly, common people can easily be confused or manipulated. This is what we see here, that the opinion of the masses can easily be manipulated in your favor or against someone. Okay, so these are the few points that we have seen here. Moving ahead, Act 4. Brutus and Cassius gather an army in northern Greece and prepare to fight the forces led by Mark Antony. अब ये लोग भाग के ग्रीस में पहुंच चुके हैं, नॉर्दर्न ग्रीस में, एंड नाउ सिंस एंटनी इज रूलिंग रोम, सो दे prepare an army against him. Further, Antony has joined with Caesar's great nephew Octavius and with a man called Lepidus. So Caesar ka nephew Octavius and another important man Lepidus and Antony. Now the three of them at one side, on one side, and the conspirators on the other side. Now there's going to be a war in the fourth act. Okay. Away from Rome, Brutus and Cassius are filled with doubts about the future and quarrel over funds for their soldiers' pay. अब वहां पर भी now, I mean, obviously now they are on a run. Okay, so they don't have much resources and everything at hand, and they have to raise an army. So now they are having doubts as to how they will sustain all these things. How will they manage to have a big army against Antony, Octavius, and Lepidus? Okay, after making amends, they prepare to engage Antony's army at Philippi, despite Cassius's misgivings about the site. They decide this is going to be the spot of battle where we are going to confront the big army of Antony. And Brutus stoically receives news of his wife's suicide in Rome. And suddenly, amidst all this, Brutus receives the news of Portia's suicide. Portia was really troubled Portia was really, really virtuous lady. She was she followed the law to the core, and she was a very fine and morally strong lady. So now she was, feeling bad about the fact that her husband has done something like this, and then the husband has also run away now with the conspirators. So all these factors really made her weak, and she committed suicide. And Brutus receives this news. He then sees Caesar's ghost as he tries to rest and is unable to sleep on the eve of the conflict. And obviously Brutus has the guilt because he's slightly understood that he has misjudged the situation. He had misjudged Caesar, and now he sees Caesar's ghost. Now seeing Caesar's ghost means it can also mean that there is some guilt in him, and he now knows that he is destined to suffer the consequences of his sins. He's going to suffer now, and he's unable to sleep on the evening of the conflict, on the eve of the conflict. Moving ahead. Act 5. In the battle, the Republicans, led by Brutus, appear to be winning at first. शुरू में तो Republicans, they are winning, and Brutus is also a great commander, a great general. So they are all winning in the beginning. But when Cassius's messenger's horse seems to be overtaken by the enemy, Cassius fears the worst and gets his servant to help him to a quick death. Cassius here commits suicide. There is an elaborate description of that if we go line by line, that he tells his servant, one of his servants, to kill him. The servant says that I cannot do this, you are my lord. So Cassius says that you better hold the sword and I will run into it. So you hold it against me and I'll run into it. So that's how he basically commits suicide. He takes the help of his servant. After finding Cassius's body, Brutus commits suicide. So Brutus also dies there. Now there are certain factors. Brutus को तो already guilt भी है, और Cassius को पता है that he doesn't want to get captured by the enemy, and all this leads to his suicide. He decides to commit suicide because he doesn't want to be ill-treated by the enemy. Okay, he believes, now Brutus also commits suicide, he believes this to be the only honorable option left to him. The honor is in dying yourself instead of being killed by the enemy, because then that means that you are defeated and then you die. So here they have committed suicide before their defeat, their actual defeat. So they say Brutus thinks that this is the only honorable way, plus the kind of things that he has done, this is the only punishment that he deserves. Antony triumphed on the battlefield. praises Brutus as the noblest Roman of them all. Of them all matlab among all the conspirators, Antony says that Brutus was the most noble man, most noble Roman, because all other conspirators had their selfish interests in killing Caesar. But Brutus was the only one who thought about the welfare of the Romans, and therefore he killed Caesar. He misjudged the situation, he got manipulated by the conspirators, agreed. But he only wanted the welfare of the common people. He did not want any power or any wealth for himself. Those were not his reasons to kill Caesar. And that is why Antony says that Brutus was the noblest Roman of them all, and orders a formal funeral before he and Octavius return to rule in Rome. So uska pura proper funeral karne ke baad hi they return to home. So with this, this is the basic plot line of the play. मैंने आपको act wise थोड़ा थोड़ा मतलब glimpses दे दिए as to what is going to happen in which act. So main plot events have been discussed here, and now we're going to move to the themes. So now the first important theme here in the play is tyranny and power. Tyranny is dictatorship, लोगों को रूल करना, और वो आप तभी कर पाते हो जब आपके पास पावर होती है. So is Caesar actually a tyrant and deserves to die? That is one very important question here. That conspirators ने उसको project किया as a tyrant, as a selfish, harsh, cruel ruler who is not thinking about the welfare of the people. So is he actually that? And was his death justified? So we see that throughout the play, no evidence of this is given to the readers. But Cassius uses figurative language to paint this picture, to paint a Caesar in the light of a tyrant, in the light of a self-centered, power-hungry monarch. The pursuit of power fueled by ambition is closely related to tyranny. Now you are pursuing power because you are over ambitious, और यही जो है ये tyranny से related है. So who actually is power hungry and pursuing power? Who is actually more ambitious, right? वो question है जो हमको खुद सोचना है, and obviously इसका आंसर निकल कर Cassius ही आएगा, because he is self-centered, he is jealous of Caesar's status and popularity. So we see that it is not actually Caesar who is a tyrant, but अगर Cassius जीत जाता, then he would have turned to be a tyrant. Okay. Although Cassius accuses Caesar of ambition, he too pursues power. उसको भी power चाहिए, popularity चाहिए. Second important theme, communication and persuasion. Throughout the play, we will see that एक दूसरे को convince करना बहुत जरूरी है. Cassius ने Brutus को convince किया using certain kind of dialogues or certain kind of language or certain kind of thoughts. So वो बहुत सोच समझ के बोलता है. So we see the power of persuasion here, we see the power of communication here. And similarly, in the end, when Brutus successfully justifies the murder of Caesar, people are convinced. Right after him, Antony justifies that this murder was incorrect. Right? He proves this and people are convinced again. So we see that power of persuasion and communication, this is shown. I mean, this is a very important component of the play. Okay. Characters communicate in different ways, through private conversations, public speeches, and written messages. And every time there is an outcome, every time there is somebody who is convinced. Right? And the one who is trying to convince the other person, he succeeds only because of his power of communication and persuasion. So, इस theme को हम elaborate करेंगे. If it comes in the form of a question, we will elaborate it with help of references from the text, which obviously you will have a good command on once we have gone through the text line by line. Okay, moving ahead. Now, the third important theme is free will versus fate. Caesar is a firm believer in fate and disregards omens and warnings. Caesar कहता है जो मेरी किस्मत में है वो तो होके ही रहेगा. These omens and everything, let's not worry too much about that. Is it possible that if he had heeded to the omen, he would have not died? Right? कैसा है? अगर वो अपनी वाइफ की बात मान जाता या सूटसेयर की बात मान जाता तो क्या वो बच जाता? क्या कॉन्स्पिरेटर्स उसके अगेंस्ट कॉन्स्पिरेसी करना बंद कर देते? Shakespeare leaves this for the audience to decide. Cassius, on the other hand, believes that he can change his destiny. And this leads him to suicide. Cassius को लगता है कि मैं सीजर को मारूंगा, मैं पावर में आ जाऊंगा, मैं अपनी डेस्टिनी चेंज कर दूंगा. But अल्टीमेटली वो सुसाइड कर लेता है. सो इज दिस फ्री विल और फेट? वॉज सुसाइड already decided by the fate for Cassius? These are certain questions that the readers are left to think about, that whether it is free will or is it actually fate. Clear? Moving ahead. Honor. Throughout the play, honor reflects status but is also used as a means of manipulation. ब्रूटस को बोला जाता है, कैसियस बोलते हैं तुम इतने ऑनरेबल हो, सीजर ऑनरेबल नहीं है, तुम ऑनरेबल हो, तुम लोगों के वेलफेयर के बारे में सोचते हो, तो तुम्हें ऑब्वियसली कोई स्टैंड लेना चाहिए अगेंस्ट सीजर. लेट्स नॉट लेट सीजर कम इन टू पावर एंड मैनिपुलेट द पीपल. सो वहां पर वो ऑनर को बार बार यूज करता है टू मैनिपुलेट ब्रूटस. दिस टर्म ऑनर और द आइडियाज अराउंड ऑनर, वो इसको यूज करता है. सो ऑब्वियसली ऑनर के साथ स्टेटस तो है ही, बट यहाँ पर ऑनर को प्ले में यूज किया गया है टू मैनिपुलेट people. Cassius convinces Brutus by flattering his honor and claiming Caesar to be dishonorable. Right? वो तभी उसको convince कर पाता है. Antony uses his speech in the end to prove Brutus as dishonorable and the death of Caesar as completely unjustified. Okay? So जो ब्रूटस ने सीजर के ऑनर के ऊपर क्वेश्चंस उठाए थे, एंटनी उन सारे क्वेश्चंस को he puts an end to all those questions by proving Caesar to be an honorable man. Okay, and once Caesar has been proved as an honorable man, then obviously Brutus becomes dishonorable. Okay, so now these are the situations which play around honor. So you will know more about it once we go line by line, and every time there is a dialogue that refers to these themes, we will have an extended discussion in our Zoom sessions. Definitely we will do that. Now this is more or less now there are some important lines, very famous lines. I just thought I should give you these also. These are the ones that have become very popular and people use it quite often. These are the lines from the play. So, et tu, Brute, Caesar says this. You too, Brutus. Then, friends, Roman countrymen, lend me your ears. So now the conspirator, once Brutus, then Antony, they want the attention of the people, and these are the lines that are said. They have become very famous. So the people use these lines now to grab somebody's attention. So, friends, Roman countrymen, lend me your ears. Matlab, pay attention to what I have to say. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars but in ourselves. These lines are said by Caesar to Brutus. He says, हमारे stars में कोई गलती नहीं है, हमारी गलतियां होती हैं जिसकी वजह से we become vulnerable to difficult situations or misdeeds. Beware the ides of March. The soothsayer says this to Caesar. Death, a necessary end, will come when it will come. Caesar says this. Death आनी ही है, सो उससे रोज रोज डरने की जरूरत नहीं है. इट विल कम व्हेन इट विल कम, सो लेट्स नॉट वरी टू मच अबाउट दिस नाउ. He says this when he's talking to his wife Calpurnia, who is trying to convince him to not go to the Senate that day. Okay, so these are few of the lines I thought, when they come in the play, you can instantly mark them as important because now they have become the cult lines. People use them, quote them every now and then quite often. Okay, so now we've come to the end of this session, and I hope that you've got the rough plot line of the play. Shakespeare's language is the archaic English. It is the old English. It is very different from the modern English. So when we are doing line by line, when we are doing the play line by line, I will keep giving you the modern English translations of those lines. And I am sure after a couple of scenes, you will also become comfortable with the language that is used there. So that will definitely be taken care of. You don't have to worry about that. And now I will meet you in the Zoom sessions for this particular session. And I will meet you next week with another text or poem from your syllabus. Till then, please take care of your health. Bye-bye.